This is a testing message for the Devon and Torbay Combined Authority Board meeting.
Can I just do that?
Testing, testing.
Hello? Yeah.
I think
Is
that's
that-
how we said.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Devon and Torbay Combined County Authority Board meeting on today, Monday, the 28th of July. My name is Councillor David Thomas, and I'm the current chair of the CCA. Delighted and pleased to hold today's board meeting in Totnes, hosted by South Hams District Council. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them for hosting the meeting and to the officers for supporting the organisation of it. As we've said, when we set the CCA up, it is important to the board that the Combined County Authority represents all of Devon and Torbay. And after today's meeting, we will be visiting a local business in Totnes, arranged by South Hams District Council. We are also hosting a visit by Baroness Taylor, Parliamentary Under Secretary of State, the Lord's Minister for Housing and Local Government, immediately prior to our business visit, and our aim is to conclude proceedings of today's board meeting by no later than 12:30. Councillor Brazil is also required to leave the meeting at 12:15, and therefore I will be changing the order of the agenda and bringing forward item 11 on local electric vehicle charging to be considered after item 5, as that requires lead member consent to be approved from both constituent authorities. At this point, I'd like to welcome Councillor Dan Thomas in his other capacity as leader of South Hams District Council. Dan, invite you to say a few words about your wonderful place here.
Thank you, David. Well, you're almost welcome. I think we're particularly proud down in this part of Devon with the work that we do, principally around marine and around water, and I think you'll be seeing an example of that later on when you go over to Totnes and look at one of the businesses. When you look at what you go and look at later on, which is to do with water testing, please remember that you're looking at something which is a project working with a number of community groups all around the South Hams, and I think that is a message I'd like you to take away today, that a lot of the work that we're doing, quite rightly, is heavily centred around community groups. Water is particularly important. If Councillor Arnott was here, he would accuse me of stealing his thunder in that regard. But the point being that we have a number of environmental groups based around our rivers and estuaries, and there's a lot of work being done, a lot of far-reaching, front edge work being done, and so I'm really pleased that you're here today. You're going to have a chance to see that and pick up on a lot of the good work that's being done down here. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. We look forward to that a little bit later on. So, as we move forward, there are no fire alarms planned this morning. If the fire alarm does sound, you will need to vacate. Please follow South Hams colleagues and the nearest marked exits, which in some instances may be directly behind you. The meeting is today being live streamed, so please remember to use your microphones. And if I could just remind you that all mobile phones and electronic devices are turned silent. At that point, please may I now call the meeting of the Devon and Torbay Combined County Authority to order, and we will start on item 1 of the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Thank you.
Hello.
We'll just wait. So this item is to note any apologies for absence received from members of the CCA board. Are there any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have received apologies from Lawrence Furin, Principal and CEO of South Devon College, from Alison Hernandez, Police and Crime Commissioner, Donna Manson, Chief Executive, Devon County Council, and Sharon Robbie from the Schools Advisory Board.
Are there any further? Thank you, Councillor Bialik.
Not an apology, just I'd like to ask the officers, it's most probably somewhere in the big bundle, I haven't brought it with me, in relation to attendance and periods of non-attendance, how that affects people's position if they fail to attend a number of times in person or a meeting. What would happen to that person in that position after a period of time? Is it 6 months? Is it 3 meetings or whatever? Just curious. Thank you.
So, Chair, if I can come back to Councillor Bialik on that point, and I'll make sure I share it with all members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move on to declarations of interest then. My apologies, Councillor Long.
Just to say, Councillor Matheson, who normally likes to come, who's a substitute member, but she couldn't make it today, but she likes to attend normally, so I just thought I'd share. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted indeed. Okay, move on to declarations of interest. This item is to receive any disclosable declarations of interest from those members of the CCA board present for any item on the agenda. There are no indications, so I'll take that as no declarations. So we'll move on to the minutes of the Combined County Authority held on the 29th of May. This item is to agree the minutes of the board on the 29th of May as an accurate meeting, and I'm happy to move that from the chair. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, happy to second that.
Thank you. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. A couple of items, or one more item to deal with on a governance level before we move into the main substance of the meeting. And this is the purpose of this item is to agree necessary appointments as set out in the report and recommendations set out in the report. Sean, if you would like to present to us, thank you.
So thank you very much, Chair. So this report seeks the board's approval for the appointment of committee chairs and vice chairs following the inaugural meetings of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and the Audit and Governance Committee. And specifically, the nominations from those committees are Councillor Andy Ketchin as vice chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Councillor Paul Haywood as chair of Audit and Governance, and Councillor Ed Hill as vice chair. These nominations are based on the recommendations of both committees. Should just point out that officers have been informed that Devon County Council intends to submit a new nomination to replace Councillor Hill on the Audit and Governance Committee, but as we are today, a formal process within DCC still needs to be completed before any change can take effect. And so we'll bring further updates to the board at its September meeting in relation to that, and members are asked to approve the item on that basis. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Long.
It's just a point I'd made in Torbay, but I thought I'd share it here as well, is that there's been a political balance change in Torbay which isn't being reflected in the CCA, and whilst it's only a minor change, it does lead to a slight democratic deficit in this body if that change and other changes aren't being reflected on this body. Thank you.
Councillor Long, the question was answered in Torbay, but for clarification, we will ask the monitoring officer of the CCA, who actually also has some knowledge of Torbay, to be able to respond again to you.
So, Chair, I can just confirm that there is no change to the board itself or the CCA in respect of that occurs in Torbay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just if I get a bit of clarification around. So we've got here that Ed Hill is appointed as vice chair, and you said something about that can change, or we've got to wait for things to happen, because for example, Ed is no longer chair of one of our committees at county, for example, and I just wondered if there may be changes around his position as vice chair on that, and if that is the case, is it just a very straightforward process that we just do it at the next meeting, or are these annual appointments or something like that?
So, Councillor Brazil, I can confirm that it is a straightforward process. It's an internal decision that needs to be taken within Devon County Council, and at the moment, we can't change it as the board of the CCA. That needs to come through as a formal nomination from Devon following their internal processes, and it's planned for coming back before you as board members in September, and it will be a straightforward process therein. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm not seeing any further hands, so happy to propose this from the chair, and seconded.
Yeah, happy to second that.
Thank you. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you, and that is unanimous of the constituent members. We move on to item 5. Which is the Revenue and Capital Budget Monitoring, April to June 2025. The purpose of this report is to present the Q1 budget monitoring for the 25-26 financial year, as I say, covering that period from the 1st of April to the 30th of June. I'd like to ask our lead officer, Matthew Thorpe, to present for us. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. As stated, this is really just the report on our financial position for the first quarter of the year. Not a lot has happened really financially. As you'll see in the paper, we've had some spend go through for the core team. We're carrying a few vacancies through recruitment delays or appointments that have not started for the full point in the year, which is essentially the year-to-date underspend. We're seeing some costs coming through under our support services, mainly linked with IT licenses and sort of live streaming of meetings, and really establishing what that core running cost or running budget is for the CCA as we evolve forward. I've tried to detail out in there a little bit more around the funding that supports the core team, and as you can see, it's really the interest earnings is still creeping up and moving forward with that, which we'll be using to offset any unexpected costs in year from that core delivery, or to support next year's budget, which, if you recall, we did have a funding deficit, which we were presented as being covered by interest earnings. Moving on then to the actual operational delivery of the programme. So again, not a lot is currently happening transaction-wise in this. So funding is being received. The biggest one on there, the capital funding, of 1.8 million relating to the Rural Services Support Fund, in there has received late in June, and spends happened in July, so you don't see the spend side of it in there, but we're essentially trying to pass out those funds as quickly as possible once received, if they're going out to a commissioned body in that point. So hopefully we'll see some more transactions going through in the second quarter of the year as funding gets actually issued and the spend programmes are up for delivery. Just a little note there really around the capital activity at the bottom there. You'll find the appendices go into a little bit more detail about the individual programmes that we've got in place at the moment. What I've tried to do there is reflect the funding that we have been informed will be in place for the various programmes, and in the year-to-date or spend or receipts-to-date column, that's where we've actually received or defrayed some of those funds. So not much else to say at this point, Chair, if there's any questions.
Thank you very much indeed. To formally put this on the table to allow a debate, I'm happy to move this from the chair, and this will be seconded by...
Yeah, happy to second that.
Thank you very much, and let's open for debate. Councillor Bialik.
It's just a question really, and I see all the money and everything else, and we see a lot of references to the various programmes and the schemes, and I know it wouldn't be contained in this report because this is the financial element, but I'm assuming at some point through all of this, we will see what we're getting for our money, in other words. in some of these programmes and schemes. We'd like to see what the turnout, what the benefit is as we go forward. I suppose that will come forward in future programmes. If that's the case, I'm happy with all of that. But you know, when we say, oh, we're spending 100,000 on this and 250,000 on that, people would like to know, okay, you've spent it. What has been the outcomes of all of that and the benefit, and is it measurable? And so we can demonstrate that this money is being spent wisely on behalf of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Anstey?
Very briefly, Chair. So, Councillor Bialik, yes, we will. We're developing the performance framework both for the CCA and then also the metrics that will underpin each of the programmes, and we'll bring regular reports back to the board.
Thank you. Councillor Long?
Thank you, Chair. In 3.11, the reference is made to residual funds expected from Somerset. I was just wondering whether Somerset are expecting to give it to us and when that money might actually be landing in our collective bank balance. Thank you.
Yes, Somerset are aware of that. So this is the legacy local enterprise partnership funding. A lot of discussions have been going on over recent weeks to finalise that transfer over to us. I think, looking at Kerry, the last document that was required was approved and signed off last week. There's a discussion today, and hopefully the funding will be released as a result of that in the coming days or weeks. So yes, should be with us soon. That will also give us some further flexibility in terms of interest elements to it, but also there'll be some legacy aspects of it, but that funding will also be available, I guess, for investment decisions going forward as well.
Thank you very much indeed. Kerry Denton, my apologies.
Thank you. Yes, Matt's absolutely right. So there was a minor legal issue that needed to be resolved that has been resolved. A memorandum of understanding still needs to be signed by all 4 upper tier authorities. We're content with it. I'm waiting to understand today if the rest of our partnership is content, it will get signed. That will provide both capital and revenue resource to the 4 upper tier authorities. It will be for the upper tier authorities to then determine what they choose to put through and support to the CCA. So I just wanted to be clear that money is ring fenced for economic development purposes, doesn't necessarily fall automatically to the CCA.
Thank you very much indeed. That looks as though Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've just been sent a press release that's come out from Plymouth. You and I quoted in it actually, but it's one of the lines says here: the proposed South West Peninsula Mayoral Strategic Authority would replace the existing Devon and Torbay Combined County Authority. Given that is the case, what is our recruitment strategy and what are we doing to mitigate? I think the public would be pretty miffed if we recruit lots of people to the combined authority only for it to be abolished in the near foreseeable future and then all the costs associated with that. So I just wonder if we've got a strategy about how we're going to deal with that.
Just looking around, which may be the best officer, and I think we'll go to the Chief Executive.
So members, as was set out in the paper that came before you last time, there are a small cohort of key officers that are being recruited to facilitate the running of the CCA now. The intention has always been to have a very small officer corps, bringing on and having service level agreements with the County Council, Torbay Council, and absolutely working with the district similarly in terms of delivering the work as we move forward. Reference has been made to Baroness Taylor's visit today. Clearly one of those aspects to discuss with her later will be about further, deeper devolution. What we don't know as we sit here now is what the government's intentions around that will be. What we do know, and as Councillor Brazil set out, is that there is now more of that consensus within Devon to seek to explore a mayoral strategic authority, which historically there hasn't been, and those will be discussions as we move forward.
clearly what we would do in terms of moving to any mayoral strategic authority would be to build upon the success and the foundations that have been laid by the CCA.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott.
Chair, first of all, apologies to everybody for my lateness, and thanks to the women and men of the AA and my wife for rescuing me and getting me here at all. So apologies. I had intended to be at 9:30, so that's how bad it was for me this morning. Yes, I hear what Anne-Marie is saying. This mayoral thing could move very fast indeed. It could be that depending on what happens to our east, there is a possibility, and we just don't know because the letter's only just gone out today. The minister may not even have read it yet. There is a world in which a mayoral election is held next May. So this is really a live issue. So I just thought I'd throw that one in. Obviously, there's nothing we can say about that today because we don't know. But, you know, that's the next big potential, I suppose, challenge.
Thank you, Councillor. And I think the whole of the devolution is a discussion we'll be having with the Baroness a little bit later on. But I would remind members that what we're effectively doing today is noting the position of Q1. We're not actually setting a new budget at this position today. We're actually noting where we are within the financial year. Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, I take on board what's been said, but at the end of the day, the CCA is there providing a service with the housing, the transport and everything else, which will then carry on to a mayoral system. My understanding is that. What we don't want to do is put anything on hold, all the good work that's gone into doing the CCA, put it on hold and then find that we're not offered that mayoral election for some time. And we're always looking over our shoulder of what might be quite a long way away. But I would have thought most of the services we're providing as a CCA will be taken over by the mayoral system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Final point on this one, because I note it is only for noting, and I am conscious of the time. Councillor Long.
It was just a slight observation that I have been surprised about the range of officers who have been appointed. I obviously won't say which ones I've been surprised by because that would be not appropriate, but I'm not so convinced by the small number of core officers, I have to say.
Okay. We will move to the vote then. This is a vote for constituent members, and it does require both lead members to be in favour to actually note this. So all those in favour of noting the report, please indicate. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. You will, or for the benefit of Councillor Arnott, we have switched the order to next item will be item 11, and the idea is because Councillor Brazil will have to leave, and this item needs both constituent lead members to vote in favour. So I'm moving now to item 11, which is the local electric vehicle charging, and the purpose of this report is to seek approval from the Devon and Torbay Combined County Authority for the proposed allocation of the 25-26 capability fund awarded between Devon DCC, Devon County Council and Torbay Council, and to outline the high-level delivery plans and planned use of that funding by each local authority. Thank you. Sean Anstey to present.
So thank you very much, Chair, and as you've alluded to, so this report seeks approval for the allocation of the capability fund just over £406,000 to Devon County Council and Torbay Council. The proposed split is £270,000 to Devon and £136,310 to Torbay, and that mirrors the distribution that's been used in previous years and reflects the maturity of existing programmes in each council area. Both authorities have well-established EV infrastructure teams and are already working with charge point operators to deliver installations across their areas. The funding is to be used to support staffing, consultancy and a trial of cross-pavement cable channels to enable home charging for residents without off-street parking. Given that the CCA is still developing its internal delivery capacity, this approach will ensure continuity, avoid duplication, and maximises the impact of funding. And as we've done with previous transport funds throughout the year, members are asked to approve the approach and the allocation to each authority. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think this one is reasonably straightforward. We'll soon find out. Happy to propose from the Chair, and I understand that Councillor Brazil will second.
Yeah, happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. So we'll open up to any questions or comments. Councillor Bialik.
Thank you very much, Chair. I did look around the car park to see where the EV point was when I turned up. So good job I charged up before I came. Just to say is, I hope we're going to, again, this is like a overarching paper, I get it. Just a little bit of focus on when they're entering into, as it says here, into contracts with providers, that there is some common sense approach to where these points go, and not in places which nobody goes to, nor where you would leave your car for any period of time. I suppose there's some sort of matrix, some sort of analysis that they are doing in order to provide the appropriate places to put them. They have to be in a sensible place, Chair, and I'm just wondering how they're going to, is it somebody who, the contractor who may be in another city far away from Devon with a desktop map, thinking, oh, well, that looks, we'll just plonk one there and plonk one there and plonk one over there, whether or not there will be some discussions with the authorities and the district councils, as well as to, this is where we think, what are your thoughts and how we can deliver them, because there needs to be a bit of thought on where these are going to go in the various locations, Chair. Now, if somebody's going to tell me all that will be dealt with in that sort of order, I'm more than happy. But I have had experience with the County Council, I dare say, of putting things, charging points in places which, to be quite honest, I assumed they were having a laugh when they put them in, like, you know, although not many residents were laughing at the particular time, if you know what I mean. So a little bit of thought on where they're going to go and a little bit of discussion and consultation would be fantastic, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. And I think, in all honesty, that is a conversation to be taken up with the constituent authorities directly. Our job today is allocating that money, and of course, Councillor Brazil, I'm sure, will respond from a Devon perspective, potentially.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, my understanding this is just about the allocation of the money. So the bit that you're talking about there, Phil, will come at a later stage. And I would suggest that that the HATOCs, that's the Highways and Traffic Orders Committee, for those that don't know, at county, would be instrumental in deciding, and so we don't get upset the great residents of Exeter, because, you know, we don't want to do that. Just by the way, there are EV charging just outside the door there, and also as you come in. So, you know, well, those ones are free actually, but keep that quiet. Yeah, that's right. But anyway, yeah. So I think, you know, and like I said, I mean, this is about allocating the funds. The detail will come at the county and then Torbay. I'm sure David, I don't know how your mechanism, but I think through the HATOCs would be a good way of doing it at county.
Thank you, Julian. Similar process within Torbay, of course, and the comment about keeping that quiet, so you just broadcast to however many thousands of people wish to view the feed at a later date.
Yeah. As I said, I think we've kept it pretty secret.
Okay, in which case, Councillor Ewing.
Just a quick question. Where supermarkets are putting in EV charging points, is that the supermarket themselves, or is that them actually being allocated some of this type of funding? I don't know.
Well,
whether it is commercial.
From a county point of view, I can assure you we won't be subsidising any supermarkets to put in anything.
And also, it will bring us to the question in later times about new housing estates and things like that that will need electric charging points, but that's for a different day. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to move to the vote. So all those in favour, please indicate. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. We move back now to item 6, and this will be pulling together a corporate plan. And the purpose of this report is to seek the board's approval of the proposed approach to develop the first corporate plan for the Devon and Torbay CCA. And invite Anne-Marie Bond.
Thank you, Chair. Members, development of the first corporate plan is going to be a key step for the CCA in terms of articulating the vision and priorities, which will absolutely then provide the framework for decisions as we move forward. In terms of emerging thoughts, as we've set out in the report, there are some core organisational principles that are starting to emerge from discussions in terms of building competence, building trust, building relationships. With some thematic principles emerging in respect of economic growth and investment, skills and employment, strategic housing and transport. However, in respect of how we move forward, we are going to be working with the Leadership Centre. Excuse me, we'll take a mouthful of water. The Leadership Centre, whose work with us has been supported by the Local Government Association, to run a series of workshops over the summer to really co-design a corporate plan to then bring that back for members' consideration. At the time that the report was prepared, we had hoped that we'd be in a position to bring back a corporate plan for September. Realistically, I'm now envisaging that maybe more likely to be November, but of course if we can hit September, that we will. But as the Chair set out, the paper today is asking for your approval in terms of the proposed approach and direction of travel in respect of developing the first corporate plan for the CCA.
Thank you. And before we just put this one on the table, I would just like to just for a second just talk about proposers and seconders, because today you have proposer and seconder from myself and Julian all the way through the meeting. However, I would much prefer the board to be in a position where proposers and seconders were shared amongst the board, particularly for members who have an interest in a particular item on the agenda. So as we move forward with agendas over the coming months, if something appears on there that you would like to propose or second, please get in touch. And I would absolutely like to be this not appear to be a top-down driven situation. But developing our corporate plan, happy to propose from the chair and our seconder.
Happy to second that.
Thank you. So move into any debate or any questions on this item. Councillor Long.
Just a perception issue, and Torbay colleagues will roll their eyes that I often complain in Torbay about the number of documents that there are and how there's a bit of a report writing industry going on in Torbay. It feels like that's being replicated here, particularly if this organisation is not going to be around particularly long. It does seem an awful lot of work for not very much outcome. Thank you.
I'll respond in a moment. Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, no, thank you. Look, I've got some sympathy with what Swithin says there. You know, having been a councillor for over 20 years, I mean, you know, most of that has been involved in creating reports that then sit on shelf gathering dust. But having said that, you know, can I welcome within it the thematic priorities within this corporate plan, which I think are excellent. Particularly, I mean, they chime very much with, because we're doing exactly the same at County with our corporate plan, but they chime very much with what our priorities are there as well, which it should be. But in particular, I like to highlight the championing children and young people. We've made it clear that that's a top priority at the county to deliver the services that our children and particularly our vulnerable children deserve. And I think so. In that sense, I think the thematic priorities are absolutely in line with Devon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from anybody? Councillor Ewing.
I would like to welcome the development of this plan. having looked at it and the report with the thematics, housing really appears in every single one of them. We know what an issue it is for Devon, and it's a key issue across the CCA. It won't disappear if we become a strategic mayoral authority. Housing will still be very prominent. And this is our way of being able to embed some of the recommendations from the Devon Housing Commission report. We also know within health and ICBs, the integrated care boards, that the chief exec of Devon spoke about at our last meeting, that housing is prominent within there, within health. If we don't have decent housing, it can make us ill. Security of tenure, state of the property, whether it meets decent home standards, etc. Retrofits, they are all issues that we need to be considering. So I welcome this report, but I do see it as a lot of work for myself and Matt, that we will be, involved in each one with, particularly as Julian says, with corporate parenting and safe places for young people and children's homes to be able to be developed, looked after. And as a lot of people know, particularly Julian, that my dream, as Kerry knows all too well from corporate parenting, is that we have somewhere that is a safe home for children in what is every district at the moment. So families are not separated too much. That is really important. If they do need to be, but they can still be within Devon, that is important as well. So I welcome this and look forward, she says, hesitantly, to the work involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bialik.
Yes, turning to the corporate plan. I'm not looking to pick a fight with anybody or anything, but this happened on a couple of things. Oh, well, we may not be here. Or what's the point of this? We may not be here. Why are we spending this? I get it. I have to tell you that I'm here to do a job. These are the rules I play to. This is what's in front of me. I have to tell you, I wouldn't have had it this way. I would have been able to vote on everything if I had my way, and it would be a bit different. But this is where we are. We need a vision. We need a vision for going forward as an authority. We need the vision for Devon. We sit here purporting to represent people in our various authorities. We need to have a vision going forward, and this is what this is doing. It chimes, to use that word, with a lot of us. And whatever comes next, we need to be in a position to take it forward. So my position is quite clear. These are the tools in front of us at this particular moment in time. I will work within them. My thoughts on whether it should or shouldn't be is totally irrelevant to the job I've been sent here to do, Chair. So I think we need this vision. I need the work to come forward. I feel sure there'll be a lot more input. I think it's a very important document on where we're taking Devon and the authorities forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And you've only got to look at 2.2 of the paper. The corporate plan will set out the authority's strategic vision, priorities and delivery framework. If you're running any business, any organisation, you'd have to put that in place on day one, preferably. We're going to work that up. Without that, you have nothing. And we can talk about a mayoral system coming at some stage, but what I said earlier, we can't keep on saying that we're not going to do something because we may become a mayoral authority. If we do that, we're going to stand still. And this corporate plan, once it's done, will be the framework for any mayoral system that we have going forward. It won't be wasted. You cannot function as an organisation without a plan. And that's why I would be supporting the corporate plan going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. From what I'm hearing around the table is there is support for the corporate plan. Maybe presentational wise, I think that's something that we need to ask our officers to have a look at. And I am aware that Plymouth, for example, have their corporate plan on a page. So is that the challenge to start with, can we pull together a plan on a page for the combined authority? Of course, it needs some documents behind it, but are we able to have the elevator pitch with the plan on a page? And let's see how that comes out as we move forward with the approach that's been laid out in the document. So I will move to the vote, and I would remind that this vote is for all members. So Councillor Bialik will be extremely excited because he does now get to vote. So all those in favour, please indicate. Thank you, and that is unanimous. We move on to item 7, and this report is to present the final version of the Devon and Torbay Local Growth Plan. Local Growth Plan has been revised and strengthened following a period of engagement with stakeholders across the region, including the public, local authorities, business leaders, education providers and community organisations. We did talk about it a month ago, but I think the document that you have in front of you, hopefully in the debate we will find out, but I think it's in a very different place. Invite Sean Anstey to present.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the Local Growth Plan, as you've alluded to, is a significant milestone for the DTCCA. It's the first economic growth strategy developed under the new devolved arrangements, and we're seeking to set out a clear evidence-based vision for the region's economic future over the next decade. As you've referred, the approval of the draft plan at the previous meeting, this revised version has been shaped by further engagement with stakeholders across Devon and Torbay, local authorities, businesses, education providers and members of the public. The CCA received over 40 detailed responses, and that feedback, which was welcomed actually, has helped to strengthen the plan considerably. The final version now places greater emphasis on geographic equity, ensuring that all areas, including those such as Northern and Mid Devon, are better represented. It embeds climate resilience and environmental sustainability throughout, and it provides a clearer framework for delivery, including year-one actions and governance arrangements. So we've reordered the priorities, the strategic priorities, of which there are 5, now consist of thriving places. So talking about our economy as a modern rural economy, community, rural, urban, that has the infrastructure and opportunities it requires to prosper. Maximising assets for sustainable growth, so unlocking the potential of our high-value sectors and the innovation ecosystem that exists here, including the Southwest Innovation Spine. And we did make a number of changes to that innovation spine to have spokes through to North and Mid Devon and West Devon as well. Thriving bedrock sectors are a really important part of the economy here in Devon and Torbay, so supporting sectors like agriculture, health and care, tourism, all of which are vital and actually significant employers across the conurbation. Supporting our entrepreneurial network region, so how do we connect small and medium-sized businesses, startups and business support, and particularly in your rural areas, and then building the skills and talent pipeline to address sort of demographic challenges and make sure that all residents can access the education and training that they need. So we intend to use the plan as a platform for investment and a statement of a shared ambition. We have taken note of the publication of the UK's Modern Industrial Strategy and other government strategies, and pleased to say that comparable analysis shows that there's many synergies between the two, and to use it as a basis for future devolution discussions, including those which we've referred to already in this meeting. There will be a series of 2-year delivery plans that sit underneath this if the plan is approved today, and we'll get those developed. To Councillor Long's point before, we are doing a bit of work on the plans and strategies that exist across Devon and Torbay, and how do those that we're producing today sit comfortably alongside them so that they're complementing rather than competing with, given the point that you raised. And we're asking members for the approval of the plan as it's now presented to you. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed for the voting matters on this one. This does need approval from both lead members for the constituent councils. Therefore, I'm happy to propose this, and second from...
Yeah, happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you. Let's open for debate. Let me invite, please, Alan Dykes, who's the chair of our Business Advisory Group, maybe to open up with some comments for us.
I think the document is significantly improved from the first pass. I think that's not an understatement. The first document we captured perhaps the urban opportunities, but was very silent on rural and coastal, and I think that's much improved. Where we might look for more, I think emphasis on apprentices and training, particularly outside the urban centres, overflows into another work group, but it's absolutely critical for what the business sector needs to achieve. Perhaps more emphasis in business tourism. The biggest disappointment in the document is actually nothing that's under our control, and it's the X-Links project, which has currently run into problems with Ed Miliband. So at the moment, it's not going ahead as it was currently planned. But if it does go ahead, it may be landing in Brittany rather than North Devon. And given the tremendous transformational possibilities that come from whenever power comes ashore, it's a real missed opportunity for Devon. And for me, not a question for the growth plan in isolation, but a real disappointment for the group. I guess the next stage, looking at the 2-year plans, is to see how we're going to focus on developing the town infrastructure, and clearly that's moving beyond Exeter to the other market towns, and how we're going to put them at the centre of what we're trying to do. So those are a couple of reservations, but frankly, it's a significantly better document, and I'm happy to recommend it to the group.
Thank you very much indeed. Any further comments? Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Alan, a much improved document. It does take a lot more notice of what we're doing in Northern Devon, and obviously our place story and stuff like that is reflected in it. Slightly repetitive in 1 or 2 places, but it's better to repeat it than miss it altogether. But one of the issues we will have in the rural area is we're working desperately on a new local plan to try and expand within rural areas, but the national MPPF is not actually our friend in that respect. So there will be hurdles, but it's definitely the way forward. I just want to see, as we said with the other document, just the plan of where we start implementing stuff, because we do need to be doing that. And on the X-Link one, I think it's a disappointment at the moment, but all I will say is the work that's gone in is not wasted. So we will carry on in some respects. So thank you.
Thank you indeed. Any further comments on this one? Okay, in which case I'd like to thank the members of the board for their comments, and we shall move to the vote. And this is a vote of the constituent members and does require both lead members for the constituent councils to be in favour to take this forward. So all those in favour, please indicate. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, an item that some of us will have spent a lot of time, work and effort on is the Torbay and, sorry, my apologies, the Devon and Torbay local transport plan. You can tell which one I've spent a lot of time with, can't you? And so this report seeks the adoption of the Devon and Torbay local transport plan 2025 to 2024, and the proposed document was endorsed by the cabinets of both Devon County Council and Torbay Council in March of this year. So we invite Meg Booth to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one point of clarification. It does run to 2040, you'll be pleased to hear, not until last year. Slight mistake on the report. Apologies for that. It's a plan which has been fully consulted on, and as you say, has been through the constituent councils. I think it's important to highlight, though, that the plan does recognise the very different geographies occurring over the plan area, and that's very clear within the documents when we start looking at the different elements, whether that's Torbay specifically, or we recognise Exeter, the rural areas, and also the growth areas that occur within the plan area. And I think the other point I really would highlight to you is the vision-led approach that's been taken in this document, and hopefully it will see us through to 2040. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. I am aware of one amendment that is more of a typo, but I'll invite Sean Anstey to pick up on that before we move forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. It is just a minor amendment. There was a there was a sentence missing from the plan that was approved at the County Council's minute when it approved the plan, and it relates to connecting Devon and Torbay action plan and adding an additional line to the reliability and resilience theme. Strategic connectivity rail, enhanced capacity and connectivity improvements on the North Devon line, including the feasibility of an extension of line to Bideford. So that line was approved in the minute but wasn't included in the plan. So when we publish the final plan, if it's approved today, we'll add that in. So just members are aware of that. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. So for clarification, that item and that line was agreed by Devon County Council Cabinet. It's been currently omitted from the report, so we'll ensure that if this is approved today, that is included as at the wish of Devon County Council. So I will be happy to propose this from the chair, and I understand that the Deputy Chair is happy to second.
Happy to second that.
Thank you very much. Let's open up for debate. Any comments? I know lots of you will have had lots of information and feedback and conversation in your constituent authorities. Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to reference 8.5 in the report. This was quite commented on in Torbay, where nearly a quarter of Torbay's population don't have access to a private car, and it's 16% in the rest of Devon. The paragraph, though, starts off by saying that all Devon and Torbay's residents stand to gain from enhanced travel choices. I feel that the report should perhaps manage expectations slightly better. I'm not sure that all residents will be benefiting, as I'm sure that some of the people in the council estates in my ward won't be magically getting lots of buses if they don't have a car. But I just think the report should sometimes just manage people's expectations a bit better. Thank you.
I think if you'd have read it in context, the whole sentence actually states all Devon and Torbay residents to stand to gain from enhanced travel choices, benefiting from improved health and activity levels, improved road safety and more efficient transport networks that LTP4 will deliver. So effectively it's saying that if the LTP4 can deliver some of the things that are in here, it will bring forward those benefits, those choices. I don't think it says that they'll all stand to gain just from us publishing the document. Any further comments? In which case I'll move straight to the vote then. All those in favour, please indicate. That is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. And we move on to item 9, which is this report presents the current draft of the emerging Devon and Torbay Skills and Future Workforce Plan for Devon and Torbay for consideration by the board, and seeks the board's approval to proceed to wider consultation on its content with partners over the balance of the summer. And we welcome Phil Adams to present. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is the current draft of the Future Workforce Plan, and we're bringing it forward today to seek endorsement from the board to consult over the summer. We're also building on best practice actually from the growth plan in having an early conversation with the board about some of its emerging content. This will be the first time that we as a CCA have had a skills plan, and it will set out, once we get to the point in September, which will come back to the long-term direction, but it also critically will set the spending priorities for the forthcoming adult skills fund, which we are about to get. And in context, that's a fund of around £50 million from next August. So it's important that we get this one right, because it will have direct spending priorities from it. Just in terms of the actual plan that's coming forward then, this has been worked upon working with the University of Exeter. Actually, the strategy you've got in front of you is a synopsis of a 100-page evidence document that sits behind it, but effectively focuses on 4 key areas that have been identified through the early work that the university's done. The first one, which many around the room will resonate with, is the developing the workforce of tomorrow, working with younger people in particular around making sure that we are putting in place the right skills at the right time with the right progression routes and the right access, and that's important, we'll come back to that, for our employment opportunities and for our industrial sectors. And this links pretty firmly into the growth plan in terms of making sure that we've got a skills system that's putting its funding into the kind of skills that we're going to need looking at our future economy. Second is around a more productive workforce. So this is working with those that are already in the workforce. This is around making sure that we're putting funding into this kind of skills and the kind of development that we want to see coming through and helping those in a county and in an area where we've got a number of challenges around long-term productivity and long-term wages, actually making sure that we've got skills progression, skills escalators and in-work progression is critical in terms of where we go next, as well as improving the inclusiveness of our ability to get skilled staff into work. Third, we've got growing and diversifying the economy. So this goes to the industrial strategy, and actually this is where we see the sort of most resonance with the growth plan and the industrial strategy nationally. This is about making sure that actually, as we go through our skills development, both in terms of capital investment, but also the revenue, we're investing in the types of skills that we need. Defence, energy, green skills, health, some of our core sectors that increasingly are coming through, as well as bedrock sectors like tourism and construction, making sure that we're fit for purpose in terms of what happens next. And finally, there's a priority which has come through loud and clear in some of the early work we've done around creating opportunity for all. And I suspect members will have views on this one, which is one of the reasons we wanted to have the chat today. This is around making sure that we change the narrative a little bit around how skills is delivered. Often it's very urban-centric, or it's very community-centric. It doesn't stretch out necessarily. And whilst we've got fantastic training opportunities, we've got fantastic colleges, we've got good schools, we have great universities, what we often find is that they're limited in terms of their reach, and we're not quite hitting the mark in terms of some of that wider distribution of our skills system. So there is a piece within the developing narrative, and as a CCA, it's the first time we've had the flexibility to do something about it, to look at how we change the delivery model slightly within our gift. So that's the sort of introduction for today. Today is an opportunity really to get the board's approval to go out and consult, but also get your early thoughts on this emerging plan in much the same way we did with the growth plan. We're really keen to get initial thoughts and initial observations and then go back out over the next couple of months to bring this back in September. It's really pointed, action focused, make sure that we're in the right place. And I'll pause there, Chair.
Thank you. Open up for any questions at this point. Thank you, Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I was reading in it about and it was talking about NEETs and saying, you know, that's not great. But actually, the NEET percentages in Devon, the Devon area, I'm not quite sure so much in Torbay, are actually pretty good. The problem that we've got is the hard to reach people, care leavers, and particularly the rurality. And it's sort of like you couldn't disagree with this document because it's sort of, it's telling us what the problems are and why we got the problems and what we need to do. But I'm still struggling to see how we're actually going to do it. What's the cost going to be? What targets have we got? How are we going to see whether it's working or not? Those kind of things. And so in that sense, it is, as Swithin alluded to earlier, it's in danger of becoming yet another document that we can all nod through and go, that's marvellous. But actually, it's not going to do anything. So I think it needs to be more ambitious and push itself further. If we want to see these changes, then, crikey, let's set some targets and actually try and achieve something with it, rather than it's a good document and it's and it's explained what the problems are and what we've got to do, but it's not the how at the moment, I don't think.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody? Okay, in which case we shall move to the vote. This is a a vote for the whole of the board, majority of members of the board. Can we, clarification, did I propose? Did you
I don't know. I'm happy to second
okay, apparently we haven't. Okay, so in which case,
I'll second it.
oh, in which case I'll propose it. My apologies, my apologies. Okay. In which case, we will now move to the vote then. All those in favour, please indicate. Okay. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. That one is unanimous. So moving on to our final item on the agenda this morning, which is item 10. This paper gives an update on the DCCA's current work on housing, seeks board approval to develop a comprehensive strategic housing plan that will be developed with oversight from the Devon and Torbay Housing Advisory Group. And we invite Matthew Dodd to present. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you very much, Chair. So, hello everyone. So I'm going to provide a brief update on the Devon and Torbay Combined Authority's current housing work as the housing lead for the organisation, and we're seeking your approval to develop the comprehensive strategic housing plan, which will be guided by the Devon and Torbay Housing Advisory Group. It's important to note the plan will complement, not duplicate, the local authority efforts. We're looking to maximise our impact as a devolved entity, making sure that we can align with government work streams and also accelerate the delivery against the known challenges that were identified in the Devon Housing Commission. So the Housing Commission reported last year, and it identified a lack of affordable homes, the need to build the right homes in the right places, and in particular the right homes targeted at housing need identified locally. That fits very well with the Devon and Torbay Combined Authority strategic goals around economic growth, health outcomes, etc. We were also clear in the Housing Commission report around some of the challenges faced more specifically by Devon around holiday lets, second homes, ageing population, etc. So bearing these in mind, our strategic housing plan will include but not be limited to the following. So implementing the Devon Housing Commission recommendations, prioritising initially the short and medium term actions, and we will set out in our housing plan what we are going to do by when so that we can monitor those recommendations. We have already been doing some work on a number of them, which I'll touch on, but this will set out where we want to get to by when. Advancing our strategic housing pipeline. This is a really key bit of work that we that did come out of the Housing Commission, recommending that we work closely with Homes England, and so we have developed that with all the housing authorities across the Devon and Torbay area. We will then move to a delivery plan with Homes England on this. This pipeline is already promoting schemes, guiding funding discussions with Homes England, and we want to continue that good work. And that pipeline puts us in a really good position if you compare us to other areas of the country with combined authorities, and even some of those with mayoral combined authorities that are still working to develop theirs. We'll continue our work with establishing a housing intelligence function. We're already working closely with partners like the Office of National Statistics across the CCA, but in particular on some housing things, and the University of Exeter to continue to develop what we got through the Housing Commission, but to turn that into a sort of a dashboard type thing that we can monitor our impacts on housing as we work through. We also want to think about our lessons learned, what's worked well in Devon. So we want to develop a series of sort of seminar workshops that bring case studies out of that, and we will look at individual schemes. So initially we're thinking around some schemes around Southwest Exeter to do something in October with Homes England, with all the partners there, to understand what went well, what didn't, and where it can be replicated. And we want to move through Devon to do different types of schemes with that, hopefully providing useful information both within the CCA and beyond. And we also, the fourth strand here is around strengthening our stakeholder engagement. So for example, understanding the structure of where people work together in Devon already, building on what we had from the Housing Commission, setting up the types of things that housing authorities have asked us to do. For example, a more strategic chief housing officers group and a more strategic planning directors group, particularly if we move towards the sub-regional spatial development strategy that CCAs are required to do in the future. To support the work on the strategic housing plan, we're looking at commissioning a short study over the summer on housing constraints and limiting economic growth on a local level, which is something that has come up a number of times, where evidence is required to understand the impact on actual local level and the growth potential unlocked by housing. So we're going to look at that, and we'll be seeking funding from that elsewhere. We're already gathering evidence from local authorities on that to give us a basis as well. So the plan aligns with our combined authorities' broader priorities, and it will fit with the other plans that you've already seen, such as growth plan, transport plan, etc. And we think it's a really important step. We've got a clear opportunity as a combined authority to take forward the Devon Housing Commission recommendations. The CCA is the right vehicle to do that. We're already working at quite an advanced level on housing compared with some other combined authorities, and I think developing this plan will show government we're ready to take advantage of the opportunities that are presented by a lot of the new housing announcements recently, such as the new Affordable Homes Programme. And I think, going to some of the points raised earlier in the meeting, what we're trying to do is create some institutional resilience around housing in Devon and Torbay, so that progress is being made on what we know needs to happen, and that can be continued and built on whatever LGR brings in the future. So we're asking the board to approve the development of the strategic housing plan, which will be brought back later this year to this session.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's see if we can get the process right this time. So happy to propose this, to put it onto the table, and seconded by...
I'll second that.
Thank you very much indeed. And that now allows me to go into debate. I'd like to invite Councillor Ewings first, as the chair of the Housing Advisory Group, to speak, and then I'm going to Councillor Arnott.
Thank you. As I said, within the growth plan, we want to, dovetail in with everybody's plans, because housing comes under everybody's plan. We're working really hard, and to use Minister McMahon's word, at pace, or 2 words, to get through this so we can actually start delivering. But more than anything, it's actually being able to get at that funding first and being organised, be able to get that funding. As we all know, the Southwest, if you're further down than Bristol, tends to get a bit forgotten. And Matthew's working very hard to actually build that relationship with Homes England. As many of you in the room may know, he worked for them for many years. So, he does have the inside knowledge, which will be very valuable to us here as to how we can reach into the funding and be successful with our bids. This plan, as it comes away, will, as I said in my previous bit, dovetail in with the mayoral strategic authority plans that we are supposed to create, and the housing side of these strands that go with transport and skills, etc. The government are very keen of what those mayoral authorities will deliver, and housing does sit within it. So we really do need to get working, and we have our next meeting in September, when hopefully some of the things that Matt has talked about will actually be on the agenda for us to discuss as a Housing Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mandy and Matt, for your contributions. So I may have not read this properly, but the thing I want every council in Britain, but particularly in Devon, that I care about most to focus on moving forward are the government proposed reforms about compulsory purchase and home value. So in our documents, are we referring to that? Do we have ambitions around that? What are we going to do?
I think as set out in the Housing Commission, the Housing Commission recommended that the CCA would be a good vehicle to understand how we can use those new powers. And I think we set out actually in the growth plan, one of the things around housing is about how we could use those powers. So it'll be something that we're considering, absolutely.
If you want to come back, no problem.
Yes, thanks, Chair. So I welcome that, Matt. If I'm honest, I'd like to have seen that come forward already as something explicit in the work so far, but I can understand why it hasn't, although we have known that this is in the pipeline for about a year, really, and very explicitly since about April. Can we, when it next comes forward, if other members are so minded, can we make reference to that explicitly? And it's great that it's in the growth plan, but this is the only tool that we've got to achieve what I describe as attainable housing, because we all know affordable housing doesn't exist. We're going to have to do something radical in Devon as they are elsewhere in the country as well. And this seems to be our best hope. So if we can not be silent on that for too much longer, I'd be grateful. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, we're seeing nodding for the record. Okay, thank you. Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to support this as a way forward, and I'm pleased to say there's only once in the agenda item do I need to pull it up, and that is in item 3.3 where it says access to high quality affordable housing. We must not use the term affordable housing in any of our documents, because the term affordable housing is actually housing that's slightly less expensive than open market housing, but still unaffordable to local people. So we must make it absolutely explicit, and as Paul has said, that when we talk about affordable housing, we actually mean the dictionary's definition of affordable. That means that local people can afford to live in it or rent it or whatever. Because if we still carry the narrative that's been, that suddenly then we'll fall into that same trap that we build lots of houses that local people can't afford to live in, but people from up country can come and move down here and live in. And that's not what we're for. We've got to solve our own housing needs. It goes into the whole, the training and workforce and all those things, because I totally agree that housing is a massive, massive issue. So, we must be very careful in all our reports to not be complicit in saying that affordable housing is somehow going to solve our housing needs, because government's definition of affordable is not affordable.
Thank you. Councillor Fife Cook.
Thank you, Julian. I totally agree. Living out in the countryside, most of our young people, you mentioned the word affordable, and they have a totally different concept of what that means. In the country areas, many people are earning very small amounts of money, and obviously people living in the city would laugh at the wages that they have. We have a double set problem because so many people want to come down and live in the countryside. It's a beautiful place to live. That artificially puts the housing prices up again. We have to start looking at how we're going to keep young people in the countryside. And we're obviously, again, as Mandy says, it's very important we have a good transport system so those people can move into villages and back and forth. Also, the transport system would help the aged. I won't say any more because my voice is gone, but I just totally agree with the comments that have been made. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bialik.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion because everybody's going to agree with that sentiment. It should be affordable. It should be within the reach of everybody. But I'm not sure if we're looking at this from a planning point of view, because affordable housing in my district is 80% of the market rent. And then you've got the social housing, which is part of the element, and some of us have got mix. Our plan is now going to 50-50, and we want to see it. Affordable housing can also mean about people buying with cooperatives, that sort of thing. So I'm not sure how we need to reference it to make that, because I get what you're saying, Councillor Brazil, but then it's a question of, well, we'd be looking to Homes England or government, because you're talking to a developer, right? I'm not arguing their case. I wish we could build our own and everything else like the good old-fashioned Council used to build council houses shortly after the Second World War, and you used to see so many in every village, and you know, all those houses. It's whether or not that is going to be funded, but a developer, sadly, is not going to say, yeah, I'll build those homes like that, because they want their return. And so this is where the fundamental structure of how they always want their 20%, all these things have got to change. It's not as easy as just saying that, making nice, good statements, which I totally agree with. It's the whole process. And I firmly believe that what government is trying to do with the planning changes is that first step in trying to change some of the cogs in this particular machine, which turns out the housing at the end. But of course, what I will say to us all, it's a classic example, and just to remind you, I'm a Labour member, just to remind you, it's all about demand and the supply. The demand is greater than the supply. It is at the moment. There's no two ways about it. The demand is greater than the supply. And I don't necessarily think everybody from up north and to the far west is all wanting to come down here. A lot of them do, and we're not providing homes for those migrants from other parts of the country. I think we need to have a shift of when we start putting in the planning applications start coming, Chair. That's where it all sort of starts. So there's a number of things about affordable housing that we need to clarify on what our understanding of truly is affordable in this particular context.
Thank you. Councillor Ewing.
I'd just like to come back on a couple of points. I would have always totally agreed with Julian around the word affordable, because it should say socially rented. But actually, there are some really good affordable schemes these days. We look at Rent Plus, Rent First models and things like that. They are affordable schemes. Community land trusts have affordable schemes. So I'm, for 20 years, I've agreed with Julian, socially rented has been the importance. It is still important, but there are some excellent schemes that are national schemes that are affordable. So I think we need to be able to use both words within the document and to spell out what we mean by it. And, just be careful in our usage of affordable or socially rented, because we don't want exclusivity on one that precludes us receiving funding for another. That is where we will be quite careful, isn't it, Matt, in how we word it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was a good conversation. And there is absolutely confusion over affordable. If you take it as a dictionary definition, as Councillor Brazil just did, that will put you down one particular route. If you look at it as a government definition, that will be something different. And you can understand the confusion in the public's eye, who will be totally unable to differentiate between the two. But I think a worthwhile discussion, and probably brings us to the point of the vote. This one is a simple vote of all members and a majority required to be approved. Therefore, all those in favour, please indicate. Okay, and that is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. So at 12:18, that brings us to the end of today's meeting. Thank you very much for attending, and we officially close the meeting. And now that the meeting is closed,